Welcome to Capitol Preview, a weekly bipartisan discussion with Iowa legislators about the key issues facing our state. Brought to you by MediaCom.
Good morning, I'm Bill Peard. I'm the Executive Vice President of the Iowa Cable and Telecommunications Association, and I'm hosting Capitol Preview, a show where we invite senators and House members from the legislature to come and discuss with us a few minutes on what they're doing up at the Capitol. This is sponsored by MediaCom. Our first guest this morning is Senator Claire Celsi, District 21 Senator for Des Moines, West Des Moines, and Cummings. And I appreciate you coming in here this morning,
Thanks
Senator.
for having me, Bill.
I got a few things I just want to kind of start in with you, and,
Sure.
and probably one of the most important are, why'd you decide to run for the Senate
Oh my.
in your district?
I actually ran in 2016 for the first time. I ran for the Iowa House and I lost. But the major impetus for me running was public education. And after I lost my race in 2016, I got some very good advice from a friend, and that is concentrate on what really got you started in running and then run again. So I helped start a organization called Iowans for Public Education, which is still a great group, and they are a very educated block of voters who now seek out and find information about public education, which really didn't exist before. I noticed there were no grassroots groups doing that. So I helped start that group, and it's still going, and public education is still my number one issue in the legislature.
Good for you. What committees do you serve on at the legislature?
I actually wrote them down because there's quite a few.
Yeah?
Senators serve on more than reps, especially now since we're in the minority in the Senate. We have to kind of do double duty. So appropriations, education, natural resources, state government, and government oversight. And then I also serve on a budget subcommittee. They basically break the budget up into smaller chunks and have subcommittees work on it, and then it flows up to the big budget in the appropriations committee. So I serve on one of those budget subs. So I am a busy person.
You are a
They
very
keep
busy
me very,
person.
very busy.
Yeah. So you've been on you're on a lot of committees, and I'm sure you have to have great knowledge by serving on those committees of a lot of different things. So can you tell me a little bit of what kind of legislation you've introduced so far?
Sure. A couple of my favorite, I guess, to me personally, have been the bottle bill that I introduced last year. It didn't get very far because my Republican colleagues did not think it would be a good bill. So this year I'm going to try again.
Sure.
And I'm actually working with the Republican chair of that committee to try and get it through a subcommittee this year, so we can discuss it. Then I've also been signing on to a lot of other bills that my colleagues have introduced about Medicaid. Our privatized Medicaid system has been, and this is just putting it mildly, a disaster for Iowans who are using it, and for the providers who are trying to provide service and not getting paid. Our newest Medicaid provider is 106,000 claims behind.
Wow.
In paying out to the providers, and it's affecting service. It's causing people to go out of business. It's causing them to provide less service to Medicaid recipients, and a lot of these are kids. So it's not a good situation.
I'm kind of naive a little bit to that, but is there anything you can do is it have to be legislatively corrected in order to accelerate that process?
Well, there's always, the Medicaid companies have been approached and obviously, kind of criticized for their slow delivery of services. They're under a government contract with us.
So
They're violating their contract
Right.
in many ways right now. So we do have some leverage.
Yeah.
And Governor Reynolds did hold back a $44 million payment not too long ago. So that's the first step, is really, enforcing the contract. And Rob Sand has been all over that as well. Enforce the contract. That's the law we're following.
So I know you've kind of mentioned this a little bit, but I just want to make sure that our listeners or our viewers get a clear picture of, so what are all these things that you're doing, what are your priorities? And I think you kind of said what one of them was.
Absolutely. Medicaid definitely is number one. Even though I'm not on the committees that would deal with changing the laws, I still am very supportive of my colleagues who are
Sure.
on those committees.
Yep.
Another thing that I really care about is gun safety. In the legislature in the last few years, they've eroded our laws and made people less safe. So I want to kind of get back to the middle again with those gun safety laws.
Sure.
Housing is another area I care about. Last year we approved money for rural Iowa affordable housing. Urban Iowa is where everyone is moving to.
Right.
In fact, my district has 15,000 extra people in it from the last census.
Wow.
So the neighborhood we're sitting in right now here on Ingersoll, this is my district. You've seen the number of new housing units that have been added into this neighborhood in the last 10 years. So that's just emblematic of what's happening. So we need affordable housing in urban areas as well. Then one other thing that I care about deeply, and that is improving the climate when it comes to our abortion laws. The Republicans are trying to change the Iowa Constitution right now to specifically say that abortion is not a right. So that's extreme. 77% of Iowans in poll after poll support access to a safe legal abortion instead of going back to before it was, what it was like before Roe versus Wade. And that might be where we're heading.
So what are your favorite, I mean, you're a passionate person, that's obvious. So what are your favorite things about serving in our legislature? Because I know it's a lot of hard work. I know that people don't have any idea how hard senators and House members work down there. So.
Yeah, I think my favorite thing is just helping people. Sometimes it's just redirecting them. A lot of the questions I get, I can't personally solve, so I need to either refer them to a state department or even their city. Sometimes it's a city problem, sometimes it's a congressional issue that only Congress can solve. So it's knowing those resources that you can send people to and get them an answer to their question. But then giving voice to the voiceless is probably my favorite thing, and that is, a lot of people feel like they're alone in the world. They're the only one with this problem, and that it's unsolvable and no one cares. So it's crucial, I think, that they feel like their elected officials listen to them and help them. And even if you can't help them, be compassionate and respond. Sometimes that's the only thing people want is just a response.
Right.
Feeling like they're listened to. So that, to me, is extremely important.
Yeah. Very good. That's very nice. Yeah. In the Iowa State House, is it politically polarized? Is the Iowa State House is politically polarized as the national government? Yes,
it's really unfortunate that it is. The House of Representatives is a little different because it's a little closer. Over there, there's only a difference between Republicans and Democrats of four state representatives right now. So they're forced to compromise a little bit. They can't ram things through as much.
Right.
In the Iowa Senate, it's 32-18. So they have a majority on every committee. Every committee chair is a Republican. Every bill that's introduced by a Democrat basically goes in the circular file. So the worst thing is seeing them abuse power and not even take good ideas for amendments to their bills. I see all the time them not even listening when a good amendment is introduced and could improve a bill. They just don't even listen to it. So that's the worst part, is seeing just kind of like that ignorant, right. I'm not going to listen to you, la 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 la, kind of thing.
Is that discouraging to you?
It's very discouraging.
Being the minority.
Because then the funny thing is they hear from their constituents and say, why didn't you vote for that amendment?
Yeah.
Because that would have helped us.
Yeah.
And it's their constituents that want that amendment, and sometimes they get chewed out for it.
So you stand up and say, tell me it ain't so.
Right,
Something like that.
Exactly.
Right. What issues do you find kind of common ground with the people in the legislature or the governor?
Yeah.
I mean, because you seem like a consensus type person.
You know what? I'm willing to listen to any idea for a solution to a problem.
Right.
So, for example, last year, there was a bill called the Omniboat bill. It was introduced by a Republican senator, a very conservative guy, but it solved a problem. The old problem was you could only register your boat in a county where your boat was.
Right.
But some people like to take their boat to other places. So the new law said you could register your boat wherever you happen to be living, or whatever courthouse you're nearby. So there was a slight problem in the law, made it very inconvenient for Iowans to do business. We fixed it. It was unanimous, as far as I can tell. It was unanimous. So we solved a problem that made it so that Iowans could be, helped. And I would say 80% of the laws that pass the legislature are like that. 80% are just procedural fixes. And some of them come from the state departments as well. There's some old language that needs to be corrected, or something that's 20 years old that doesn't apply anymore that we can fix. So we do that.
That's good. What's the most challenging, and being a former elected person myself, I kind of empathize with you a little bit, both good and bad. But what is the most challenging thing about you being an elected official?
I think life balance is probably one of them. I would consider myself not necessarily a workaholic, but somebody that doesn't know when to shut it off. So my phone's with me all the time. I tend to check my email, a lot. So it gets in the way of really just kind of recharging. So I'm learning to work on that. Managing expectations is another one. Some people expect elected officials to be magical and solve all problems, even if it's an unsolvable problem, or if I have no power to solve it. So you have to give them the procedure and the process and kind of walk them through it and say, well, here's what we tried, but it didn't work. So we have to wait till next year to try again. Some folks just have a hard time understanding the procedure and the process, because sometimes it does take a long time to make changes.
Meantime, they think you've forgotten them, but
Right.
you haven't.
Exactly.
Right.
So yes, so I think that, and then educating voters. One of the main things, I mentioned this before, one of the main things I get is something that's a congressional issue. So saying, no, that's not me. Please call Cindy Axney. Here's her phone number. Here's her website. Contact her.
I do know you guys work a lot with our federal officials. In your case, Cindy Axney, and any of the U.S. senators. Do you have any dealings with them?
My dealings with our U.S. senators right now are leaving messages on their full answering machines.
Okay. What issues do you hear the most from your constituents?
Definitely Medicaid right now. I'm hearing from providers that aren't getting paid. I'm hearing from people who aren't getting the services they need. Those are the sad emails. Then direct care professionals are another one I hear from a lot. Those are folks who take care of folks that live in nursing homes or care centers. They're a very low-paid group, and we have a shortage of thousands and thousands of direct care workers in Iowa. It's a huge issue. I hear a lot about education from folks, more money for education, and then clean water. I hear that a lot, especially from my constituents here in Des Moines. They really care. They really care about that issue. My district has the Des Moines Water Works in it, so I care a lot.
Well, this has been fantastic. You have really opened up, what Senator Celsi does, for her constituents. And so
thanks.
I appreciate you coming in here this morning.
No problem.
And thank you for viewing another show of Capitol Preview. Our guest today was Senator Claire Celsi for District 21 Senate. She's a Democrat from District 21. She takes care of Des Moines, West Des Moines, and Cummings. So again, Senator, we appreciate you very much coming in here and spending your time with us this morning.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it.
Thank you.